Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we extract the most important knowledge and insights from the sources you share with us. Today, we're wrestling with a really monumental question. What script are you actually following in your life? I mean, are you acting out the drama the world hands you, which seems to change every day, or is there, an ultimate story?
Well, our source for this deep dive, a research paper called The Story of Reconciliation, argues that there absolutely is. It introduces this concept of the kingdom narrative,
Hmm.
and it calls it the grandest epic drama of all. It's basically the ultimate framework for making sense of, well, everything. Our lives, the cosmos, the whole deal.
The grandest epic drama. Okay, I like that. So let's unpack this ultimate script. Our mission today is to really distill that core plot and figure out where we fit. And the sources are crystal clear that the foundation of this whole drama is what it calls the threefold relationship.
That's right, the connection between God, humanity, and creation. And this isn't just a theme. You have to think of it as the blueprint for the entire divine kingdom order.
A blueprint.
Exactly. Think of that triad as the structural integrity of the universe. If one part breaks, the whole system just collapses. So we're going to walk through the three acts of this drama. First, you have Act 1, creation. That's the blueprint. Then Act 2, the fall, which is the rupture. And finally, Act 3, redemption, the new creation. And the whole point, the whole arc, is about renewing every single one of those fractured relationships.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. Act 1, creation. The sources set the scene, in the beginning, everything was very good, which isn't just fine or okay. It means it was designed with this profound harmony, order, and beauty. But what did that harmony actually look like?
To get that, you have to start with the cornerstone relationship, the one between God and humanity. The source material really hammers this point home. This link is the absolute foundation of the whole thing. If this relationship works, the universe is ordered. If it fails, chaos.
And humanity had a pretty significant role in all this. We weren't just, spectators.
Not at all. We were, in a way, royalty. The source says humanity was made in the image of God and appointed as his vice-regents.
Vice-regents, that's a powerful term.
It is. It just means we were his royal representatives, not the king, but authorized to govern the world on his behalf.
So there's authority there, but I'm guessing that authority came with a boundary, a condition.
A critical one. A covenant was established. Obedience means life. Disobedience means death. And this wasn't just some arbitrary rule. It was a deep spiritual boundary rooted in reverence. The whole point was to love God, to maintain that union, which the source says leads to eternal rest.
Okay, so that cornerstone God and humanity in perfect relationship that then sets the stage for the other two. How does that harmony flow outward?
It's like a beautiful ripple effect. First, you see it in the human-to-human relationship. It starts with marriage, which is meant to be a reflection of that perfect union between God and humanity. And from there, society was supposed to grow in unity. People cooperating, loving one another. No power struggles, just shared purpose.
And the third piece, our relationship with creation, was about stewardship, not domination.
Precisely. We were faithful stewards, cultivating the earth, and the idea was to expand that garden into a sort of cosmic temple. And before the fall, this split we have now between the sacred and the secular, it just didn't exist. All work tilling the soil, naming animals, building society, it was all sacred. It was all stewardship.
What's really fascinating here is how the source brings in Colossians. It stresses that this blueprint wasn't just a plan A that went wrong. It was always pointing toward its ultimate fulfillment in Christ.
Yes, this is such a key insight. It means Christ was never plan B. He's the Alpha and Omega. He's before all things, and the text says, in him, all things hold together. He was the intended center from the very, very beginning.
Which, of course, makes the next part of the story even more tragic, that perfect blueprint. It didn't hold. So that brings us to Act 2, the rupture, the great collapse. What was the absolute root cause of it all?
The source boils it down to a relational rupture, and it was caused by crossing a boundary. But the root wasn't just breaking a rule. It was, well, it was coup, an attempt to usurp God's sovereignty, the desire to, and I'm quoting here, define good and evil by themselves, to become their own masters.
So it wasn't about an apple. It was about who gets to define reality. It was an open rebellion, which led to being cut off from the source of life.
Exactly. And because that divine-human relationship was the cornerstone, its failure triggered an immediate, devastating domino effect. You see it all play out right there in Genesis 3.
Let's trace that collapse. The first thing to break is the interpersonal relationship.
Instantly. Harmony is replaced by shame and fear. They hide. Then comes the blame. Adam blames God and Eve. Eve blames the serpent. And you see how quickly that escalates? Just one chapter later, you have brother killing brother. The tragic story of the world since then has been sinners trying to crown themselves king.
But here's a question I think a lot of people have. If the sin was purely relational, a spiritual failure, how did the physical world, the ground itself, break down so quickly?
That's a fantastic question. Because the vice-regent failed, the entire kingdom they were supposed to steward fell with them. Stewardship immediately gets twisted into short-sighted exploitation. The source uses a really powerful word for this. It says this was the introduction of entropy.
Entropy, that's a term from physics. What does it mean in this story?
It means the entire created order was plunged into a continuous, unstoppable descent toward chaos and decay. It's not just that things got bad, it's that a fundamental law of decay was introduced into the system. Every machine that breaks, everybody that ages, that's the mark of entropy.
That is a bleak diagnosis. It means if that chaos continued, the end game is just total destruction and death.
Yes, and that profound despair is exactly what sets the stage for Act 3.
Right. God's intervention, the great work of redemption. And the sources are really clear on a key distinction here. Redemption isn't just fixing up the old, broken world.
No, not at all. It's defined as an upgrade to an entirely new version, a complete new creation. This isn't about patching a leak. It's about building a whole new ship. The scope is cosmic.
And this redemptive plan kicks in almost immediately after the fall, right?
It does. It starts with God's first words to the hiding Adam. Where are you? Even that question is an act of grace. And the source points to the animal that was killed to provide clothing, prefiguring the ultimate sacrifice that would be needed to cover humanity's shame.
And then you get the first explicit promise of victory, Genesis 3.15, the proto-evangelium.
The first gospel, exactly. It's this tiny seed of hope planted right in the middle of the judgment. The promise that the woman's offspring would one day crush the serpent's head, reversing the failure. And that promise echoes all the way through history.
So it all comes back to that eternal center, to Christ. The last Adam, as the source calls him, succeeds where the first Adam failed.
Through his perfect obedience, he reverses the consequences of that rebellion. And the scope is massive. The source points us back to Colossians, which says Jesus is preeminent in everything. And through his death, God is pleased to reconcile to himself all things, on earth or in heaven.
Wow. So it's saying Jesus is sort of the universal glue holding the broken cosmos together while also rebuilding it from the inside out.
That's a great way to put it. He is the reconciling bridge. And the final vision of the story in Revelation confirms this. A new heaven and a new earth, where God's dwelling is finally and forever with humanity. The original purpose is fulfilled. Death, mourning, pain, all gone.
Okay, so we have the grand narrative, creation, fall, redemption. But the big question for all of us listening is, how do we actually locate our own lives in this story today?
This is where it gets really practical. We don't just sit back and wait for the end credits of Act 3. We're participants. The source material introduces a framework for this called the threefold vision. And what's so elegant about it is that each part of the vision directly corresponds to repairing one of those three broken relationships.
Okay, let's break that down. How does it work? Let's start with the cornerstone, the broken God-human relationship.
That is repaired through evangelization. The source defines this as all nations united in Christ. It's the good news. It's sharing the message that the cornerstone can be repaired, that peace with God is possible.
So that's the first step. What about the human-to-human breakdown? The blame? The violence?
That's addressed by kingdomization. This is about the church wholly submissive to God's rule, focusing on reconciliation and unity. This is living out the restored order. It's practicing forgiveness and sacrificial love, which is the complete opposite of the world's power games.
And finally, our broken relationship with creation itself, moving from exploitation back to stewardship.
That's Christianization, human culture fully reflecting God's glory and beauty. This means going into every field art, science, business, education, and working to bring beauty, justice, and order, pushing back against the entropy.
Can you clarify the distinction there? Kingdomization and Christianization sound a little similar.
It's a crucial distinction. Kingdomization is often inward-facing. It's about how the community of faith lives together, how we practice reconciliation with each other. Christianization is outward-facing. It's how that transformed community then goes out and actively transforms the world. So if you're an architect, Christianization is designing buildings that promote human flourishing, not just profit. That's pushing back against the decay.
This all sounds, well, it sounds like a massive to-do list.
Yeah.
Am I, the listener, now burdened with fixing the entire world?
And that's a fair question. The source is very careful to say this is not a heavy set of rules to earn God's favor. Instead, these actions are meant to be the natural outflow of a heart transformed by understanding this story. It's about being changed so deeply that your life just naturally flows into these streams of reconciliation.
So it's less about finding a new mission and more about transforming your current context.
Exactly. The call is to be ambassadors of the restoration right where you are. Your family is a place for kingdomization. Your career is a place for Christianization. Your daily conversations are a place for evangelization. You participate in the new creation wherever you happen to be standing.
This journey through the story of reconciliation, it really does offer a steadfast hope.
Hmm.
That the brokenness we all feel with God, with each other, with the world, it's not the final word. These aren't permanent shackles. The power of resurrection is at work right now, moving this already inaugurated kingdom toward its final completion.
And the ultimate assurance behind it all, as the source reminds us from Romans 8, is that nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God. That unbreakable love is the foundation of the entire story from beginning to end.
So the grand script has been revealed. It gives us this ultimate sense of purpose. You're not just a random player in a chaotic drama. You're an actor in the greatest story ever told. So, knowing your place in this cosmic story, how will you write your chapter? What sphere of your life, your family, your career, your community will you commit to being an ambassador of reconciliation this week?